you watch my previous video, you may remember that I finally met with the financial planner here in Canada. During our first appointment, he mainly gathered information, including our income, expenses, investments, my savings, properties, assets, and liabilities. I left that first meeting without any results because he needed time to prepare a complete financial projection plan. We've now had our second appointment, and that was last week, and I finally received my personal results. Overall, I was very pleased. But there is one important detail. The plan assumed that I would retire at 65, and that's the baseline of the projection. However, my personal goal is actually to retire at 60. So while the results were encouraging, they did not yet answer my biggest question. Can I afford to retire 5 years earlier? Today, I'll share what's included in my plan and what my results meant in simple terms and what I need to do next. These are my personal results based on my family's financial information and the assumptions used by the planner. They will not apply to everyone, and they are not a guarantee of what will happen in the future. I'm also not a financial advisor. I'm simply just sharing what I'm learning as I prepare for my retirement in Canada. The planner prepared a 36-page package. It covered our cash flows, investments, current and projected net worth, retirement income, emergency savings, estate planning, and several what-if scenarios. One of the most helpful reports was the stacked net worth projection. It showed how our different assets might change each year. I've already done a lot of my retirement research on my own. I have used online calculators, created spreadsheets, and projected how my investments might grow. So the results weren't completely surprising to me. What I received was a validation that most of my research was moving in the right direction. But the planner's report was much more complete. My calculations mainly focused on how much our investments might grow. His plan connected our investments with our spending, properties, taxes, emergency savings, retirement lifestyle, and estate. It helped me understand that retirement planning is not only about reaching one investment number. The goal progress report showed my retirement goal at more than 150%. Let me explain that in a simple way. It does not mean my investment will earn 150%. It also does not mean I have a 150% chance of successful retirement. Based on the information and assumptions entered in the plan, the projection showed more resources than the amount estimated to support the retirement goal used in that particular scenario. That was very reassuring for me to see. But again, that scenario assumed retirement at 65. Retiring at 60 would mean few years of employment income, 5 few years of contributions, and 5 fewer years for those contributions to grow. I would also need to start using my retirement savings 5 years sooner. Because of that, the result could look very different when we change the retirement age. The report also showed my cash reserve goal at 60% without the proposed strategy and 100% after applying the strategy. It simply means that according to the way this particular goal was entered into the plan, following the recommended strategy would bring the cash reserve to its full target. I just want to be clear that these are personal planning results, not universal retirement rules. Someone else could have the same amount invested and received a completely different result because their income, spending, debts, retirement age, and lifestyle may be different than mine. The plan used an assumed investment rate of return of 6.34%. The planner explained that my investments could grow more than what appeared in that report, specifically during the stronger market periods. But 6.34 is only a planning assumption. It is not guaranteed, and it does not mean my investments will earn exactly that amount every year. I really appreciate that the plan wasn't built entirely around the most optimistic result. If my investment eventually grow more, that could improve the outcome. But I don't want my retirement plan to work only if everything goes perfectly. One of the immediate recommendations was to follow the savings strategy and top up our TFSA contributions annually. I have been focusing on more heavily on my RRSP because I'm currently in a higher tax bracket. So my RRSP contributions help reduce my taxable income, and I appreciate receiving the tax refund yearly. But the planner helped me see that I also need to think about financial flexibility later, not only about receiving a tax deduction today. I still need to review the details before changing how I divide my contributions between my RRSP and TFSA. He also recommended ongoing reviews to make sure that plan continues to match our circumstances. Our income, investments, health, retirement date, and lifestyle could all change. So this isn't a plan that should be completed once and then forgotten. The biggest surprise for me was not the retirement projection. It was the multi-year estate report. I've researched RRSPs, TFSAs, CPP, OAS, and investment growth. But I have never looked at estate planning in this much detail. The report showed an estimate of what might happen to our assets later in life, including possible taxes, other reductions to our estate. The figures were based on assumptions, so they were not guaranteed. But seeing the estimated numbers affected me differently because my husband and I have 2 children. We work hard to save and invest, but we also need to consider what could eventually happen to everything we have built. How would our assets be handled? How could taxes and other costs affect the estate? And do we have an appropriate strategy for our children? So the planner told me that financial planning is not only about saving and investing. It also includes taxes, emergency savings, retirement withdrawals, estate planning, and what happens to our assets after we are gone. That was an area I had not examined closely enough. We also briefly discussed our future housing plan. My husband and I own our house and a 2-bedroom rental condo. So the condo was actually our first home. One option is to eventually move back into the condo and sell our current house. This could reduce our housing cost, free up some of our home equity, and make it easier for us to travel. If we're still healthy, we would love to spend part of the Canadian winter in the Philippines or visit other Asian countries. Nothing has been decided yet, but it was helpful to see how our housing decision could support both our finances and the retirement lifestyle we want. So, was meeting with a financial planner worth it? For me, yes. He didn't give me a secret investment strategy or promise that everything would work out perfectly. What he gave me was a clearer and a more complete picture of my personal finances. So he validated much of my research, organized everything in one place, and brought my attention to areas, especially estate planning, that I had not explored deeply enough. My first action is to carefully review the complete package. I want to understand the assumptions and the recommendations, not only look at the positive score. My second action is to review how topping up our TFSA annually could fit with my current RRSP strategy. And my third action is to start taking our estate and legacy planning more seriously. And the next step is to start asking the planner to run another scenario using my real retirement goal of age 60. The current result says that I'm in a strong position based on retiring at 65. Now I need to find out what happened when we remove 5 working and saving years from the plan. Will our projected income still support the lifestyle we want? How much additional risk would that create? And what changes would I need to make between age 50 and 60 to make it work? That will be the focus of my next discussion with the planner, and I'll share what I learned in another update. My biggest takeaway from this experience is that a positive retirement score only makes sense when you understand the assumptions behind it. Always check the retirement age, spending, investment return, and life expectancy assumptions used in that calculation. Have you ever received a retirement projection? Did the results reassure you, or did they give you more questions? Please share your experience in the comments below. And if you're also preparing for retirement in Canada, consider subscribing. I'm sharing my personal journey as I work toward my goal of retiring at 60. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.